Doc on the Run. We help injured runners run.
Can I run in zero drop shoes after a plantar plate sprain heals? Well, that's a great question, and that's what we're talking about today on the Doc on the Run podcast. I was just on a call with a runner, and he's been doing really well. He had a plantar plate injury. It's been bothering him for about a year and a half, and we did a series of calls to talk about some things that he could do differently to get it moving in the right direction. And finally, it is. Now, he's a little gun shy because he did take over a year where it wasn't improving at all with some standard treatments. And so, he is being cautious, but rightfully so. He's had a lot of trouble with this thing, and now it's doing great. And he wants to make sure he doesn't mess it up. And he asked me a great question when I was on the call with him this morning. He said, can I run in zero drop shoes once it's really healed? Not today, but like when it's really, really healed and it's stronger and all that kind of stuff. I said, you can do whatever you want. You just have to be willing to pay the consequences. And what I mean by that is that the plantar plate ligament, it's on the bottom of the foot, right underneath, usually underneath the second metatarsal phalangeal joint. That's just where the toe connects to the foot. So you have the metatarsal bone and you have the phalanges. And where those connect, that's the metatarsal phalangeal joint. It's a little ligament on the bottom of it. It's a very small ligament. When you stretch it out, when you injure it, when you get pain, when you get swelling, and you don't treat it, and it takes you like a year or year and a half before you finally actually start fixing it, well, it's probably going to be stretched out, even if it wasn't completely torn, because you've been bathing it in inflammatory fluid that actually degrades the collagen and makes it weaker over time. And so the problem is that you've got to decrease the stress and strain at that area. Makes sense, right? Well, so there's two problems with that with zero drop shoes. And I actually run in zero drop shoes occasionally. I don't run in them all the time. I use different shoes for different workouts. So I'm not one of those people that's a podiatrist who just beats up zero drop shoes and says everybody needs to be running in a standard running shoe. I don't believe that's true. But what I do believe is that zero drop shoes are a lot thinner than conventional running shoes. That is for sure. That means there's less cushioning between you and the ground. That is for sure. What's also for sure is zero drop means there's no lift under the heel. Now, if you're a runner and you have any tightness in your Achilles tendon, if you've been in a fracture walking boot to treat the plantar plate injury, your Achilles tendon is going to be tighter. So if you put a heel lift underneath the heel and you lift up, you decrease the tension on the Achilles tendon. If you actually have a tight Achilles tendon and you remove that heel with zero drop shoes, you increase the force on the ball of the foot because the Achilles is tighter and it's pulling more as it pushes down on the ground when your heel's getting ready to come off the ground at what we call the mid-stance phase of gait. Doesn't matter what that is. But when your heel's getting ready to come off the ground, it's the maximum amount of force underneath there. Some studies have shown that it takes about 5 times the amount of torque to get your ankle to end range of motion right before your heel comes off the ground if you've been in a cast or fracture walking boot for 4 or 6 weeks or so. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to have more pressure on there. So number one, zero drop shoes are more issue with pressure from a tight Achilles tendon, a lot less padding, and in most cases, they're very flexible. So the flexibility in itself is not necessarily a problem, but what I worry about with people with zero drop shoes when they have had a plantar plate, and I've had one, so I know what it's like. I know what it's like to be concerned about it, and I worry about it probably more than you would because I think about them all the time. And so if you have a plantar plate sprain and you're running in flexible zero drop shoes and you're changing direction on a trail or on a driveway cutout or you step on one of the reflectors on a crosswalk or something, it can tweak the foot with a lot more force because it's so much thinner. So it's not that necessarily that just the zero drop is a problem. It's the inherent flexibility of those shoes that lets your foot move a lot more without any protection and decreasing the amount of force of the dorsiflexion of the toes or movement up of the toes that actually strains the plantar plate ligament. That's what I'd be concerned about. But if you love running in them, you can do whatever you want. You just have to be prepared to pay the consequences. Now, if you like this episode, please like it and please subscribe. And if you haven't seen it yet, if you have a plantar plate issue that you're worried about, come check out the Plantar Plate Masterclass. It's a deep dive where I go into all the detail about all the stuff, the strategies that I use with plantar plate sprains in runners, like this guy I was talking about who signed up for a series of calls after had a year of not getting better. And those strategies that I teach at medical conferences are what I teach you in the masterclass. It's free. You can get it at docontherun.com/plantarplate masterclass. So come sign up and I'll see you in the training.
Doc on the Run. We help injured runners run.